In this video, I'm going to demonstrate the wood formwork tools that we've created here at Keyack Technology Solutions. Here, I'll go ahead and activate the component by going to my KTS Tools menu and double-clicking on the Footing Forms icon. Here you can see a dialog box that allows us to control different settings to place in the wood formwork. Now, you'll see here that there is a concrete massing model, and this can be a native Tekla Structures model, or it can be an IFC file or reference model that's been brought into Tekla Structures. Now, what we'll do is we're going to pick at the top of the concrete here, and I will just go ahead and span across by picking these 2 points. And then what we'll see here is within a few seconds, we'll see that the wood formwork has been then placed. Now, what we can do is we're going to select on this, and we can control whether the formwork is lined up with the top, and then you'll see that it actually goes through and tries to figure out the number of pieces. Right now I've got the concrete set at 4 foot, but what I should do is I should measure that real quick. So let's just go to Edit, and we'll go to the Measure command. I'll measure the height of this concrete here. So that's 1'6". So we'll select on this here, and we can go ahead and type in 1'6" and say Modify. And then you see that the number of boards and the different types of boards of lumber are calculated here to make this work. You'll see that the boards that are chosen are going a little bit below, but we can change this to hold to the bottom of the concrete if we'd prefer. So we can modify, and then you'll see that the top of the forms and the lumber actually go a little bit above. Now, what we can also do is we can control the stakes. Now, when you have a concrete height here entered in this part of the dialog box, if it is 42 inches or less, then and you leave the stake length and the kicker length fields empty, then it will try to automatically calculate it based on either the bigger of the concrete or the wood forms all added up, the height of that. And it'll add to the next or round to the next 6-inch level. So if I come in here and just click on this, you'll see that the stake is 2'6". Now, once it gets over 42 inches, then it starts to increment, because I think stakes will go up to 6 inches, up to about 4 feet, and then you can start going into 1 foot increments. So on the full height wall, so if I type in 4 foot here, let me make sure that this is 4 foot. That's 4 foot. So if we apply, and then we just go ahead and put this plug-in across there, so I'll activate the component again. We'll pick at the top of the wall. This time we'll go all the way across here if I want. Okay, and then you can see that the stake length is automatically calculated, and then once it gets to a certain height, it actually starts to round to the nearest foot from there. So let's go ahead and click on this, and we'll see that that's 5 foot, that's 5 foot, and our concrete height was 4 foot there. Now you can see here that I'm using lumber to essentially accomplish this, but we also have the ability to do a plywood option. So if you want to switch from lumber to plywood, you can then enter in the thickness of the plywood and the height or width of the sheet, and then the length of your standard boards. And then you can also make a starter board, so that way if you want to stagger, like you see here, this like having a smaller or shorter starter board and then your standard length board, and then sort of like kind of stacks like almost like bricks here just to create more strength, then you can do so. So I'm going to modify that, and then you'll see that that switches to plywood. Now, what if I did have something a little bit taller, like a wall that was a little bit larger? Let's actually go over here, and let's measure what the height of this wall is. So this is 4'9". So I'll go ahead and type in 4'9" here and apply, and then I will activate the component. So here you'll see that I have an option to, put the 4 foot sheet there, and it puts a second tier on there, but then it can cut to fit basically that plywood. And then if it was pretty close and I didn't want to actually do that extra labor of cutting, say you had like a 7 foot wall or something like that, and you didn't want to cut that extra foot off, you can say no to that, and it'll just put the extra sheet of plywood there rather than cutting it off. So you have the option to choose that. Now, what you can easily do is you can either set the distance to the first stake, like if you want to control exactly where the stakes and the kickers are at, or if you leave it empty, it will automatically take the 4 foot space or whatever spacing you put, and it will find out the equal spacing of 4 foot it can put in there, and it just kind of has the leftovers here at the start and the end. Or you can enter in a specific distance, like 2 foot, modify, and then it'll calculate that, and then have the leftovers at the end. So let's say 1'6", just so you can see how that's kicking in. There you go. So When you're at corners, what you can do is if you want an extension on one end, we can come in here and say yes, modify, and it'll extend like at the corner, so that way there's a little bit of a lap. And if it's lumber, it's going to go out the 1.5 inches. If it's plywood, it'll go the thickness of the plywood. And then here, like on the left end, I'll say no, and then let's switch this back to no and apply. Again, I'll activate the component. Get this a little bit out of the way. And then we'll just go from the top here to the top there. And then that puts that in there. And you can see now that I've got that corner lap as needed or as required, so that way the concrete doesn't spill out. So you can do those extensions there on the left and the right. And if you're doing like slab or shorter footings and things like that where you don't need kickers or you don't need the stakes, you can turn the stakes and the kickers off. You can also toggle between metal and wood. So here, if I just go ahead and switch this from metal to wood, I can say modify, you can see there that it then puts that in. Now what it'll do by default is it's going to try to make the stake and the kicker the same length. And so you're probably sitting there wondering, like, how can that be if this is at the diagonal? Well, the vertical stakes are going just down further into the ground, and then this is sort of resting a little bit higher on the ground, but you have complete controls. So if you wanted to modify the specific length of this, let's say I wanted this the kicker length to be 7 foot, I can modify, and then you'll see that it just calculates the geometry based on that stake length to place it here against the formwork and the wall. All right, so now let's say that I want to do the far side. What I can do is I can just switch this to far side and press apply and OK. And let's just go ahead and pick the far side of the wall now. And you'll see that it reverses the direction. So rather than you having to worry about which way are you picking and which way are you putting the formwork in, no matter whether you go left to right or right to left, you have an offset direction control. So that way you can quickly get the wood in to the location and exactly the way that you want. Alright, so we'll finish up by going up to the top of Tekla here to the Manage tab page. We'll then click on the Organizer button. That'll open up the Model Organizer. Now this is going to allow us to do our quantity takeoff and export that to Excel. Now here at the upper right in the tree view, we're going to see that there's this KTS formwork summary. This then captures and filters all of the forms in the model based on the filter. And if we press the synchronize button, that'll go ahead and make sure that we have the organizer up to date based on all the latest parts in the model. And if we right click on this and say properties, we can actually see the filter that's being used here to specifically make sure that only the particular parts we're looking for are in this group. And then we can see that it's separating the subgroups based on the property of name, which is exactly what you're seeing here. If I press this object group button, we can then go to the drop down and we're going to look for this formwork part, and we'll look for forms tool. You can see that this is what the filter is looking for, any part names that contain form, kicker, or stake, and that's what is basically being shown here. Now the next thing is when we actually want to look at each of these different categories or the master category and see the report that we're going to export to Excel. That's basically controlled with this KTS-formwork report. And here inside of the properties of this group, we can see that here at the bottom there's this property template, which is the report that we want to basically show. So that's here at the very bottom. Now, you can also change that on the fly up here, but this is basically set the way that we want. So we've got the quantities, we've got the part name to show whether we're dealing with the form, kickers or stakes, and then we can see like the different profiles, so like the different types of lumber or plywood, and then we can also see like the wood type, whether it's timber or plywood, the length, and then even the weight if required. Now what we can then do is we're just going to export this. So you can come up here to the export menu, and that's where you can choose your Excel template. If you've got like your logo or a custom header, you can create an Excel template and you can use that and then export that directly to Excel so that we can use that as a bill of material. Now to control, if you want to add additional properties or modify this here, this main KTS formwork report can be modified at the upper right hand corner of the organizer underneath this sprocket icon called Open Settings. And this is where you can do search for different properties, like for instance here name, and then you can grab those properties. You can add a column here using this plus button, and that'll add a new column at the bottom. You can click here and just drag and drop to move these up and down, so that way they go left and right inside of the actual form view and which order the columns are displayed in. But it's pretty much that easy to set that up. And then you can either create a new template or you can modify this existing one, and then you can export that out to your firm folder so that way you can leverage and keep any of those changes that you make. So there you go. That concludes doing wood formwork here within Tekla Structures using the footing forms and wood formwork tool created by Keyack Technology Solutions.
If you found this content useful, please subscribe to our channel and press the alerts button to be notified when we upload new content.